Thank you all so much for joining. I'll go ahead and introduce Mr. Carlton Hughes. Carlton is a professor at, gosh, I forget which community college, Carlton, I'm sorry.
Southeast Kentucky Community and
Southeast
Technical
Kentucky
College.
Community I didn't want to get it wrong. Carlton is a longtime board member with the Kentucky Christian Writers Conference. In fact, at Hallie Bridgman, who's this year's director, at her first conference, he taught the newbie class to Hallie. If we were conducting our conference in person, which God willing, we will do next year in Jerusalem, right? Carlton will be a very familiar face to you because traditionally he has taken on the responsibility of being the MC. But without any further ado, I'll turn it over to Mr. Carlton Hughes. Go ahead, Carlton.
Hello. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Greg. And I'm so glad that you have joined us this morning. Bright and early. Wow. I'm going to have to talk to the person who made the schedule. But anyway, typically not a morning person, but I'm glad to be with you this morning. And we're here. Generally, this class is geared toward people who are new to our conference or new to a writers conference period. And so that's how I'm going to conduct this class. And if you have questions, we ask that you put them in the chat, and then we'll have a time a little bit later to answer those. Or we could probably even, with such a small class, maybe even just unmute everybody and then do that later. But I'm going to lead us in a prayer, and then I'll get started with my content. So if you will, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for another day. Lord, another day to worship you and to learn about writing and about each other, Father. And we thank you for each and every person who's gathered here online. We thank you for the method that you've given us to meet online, Father. And I just pray that you'll bless this course, bless everything that's said and done, and may it all be done to your glory. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so I have a PowerPoint that I'm going to share with you and kind of walk through. And I'm going to share my screen, and we will walk through this together. And there you go. So, little introduction about me. I'm Carlton Hughes. I am a published author. I am a big fan of writers' conferences, and I have been the maker of every mistake in the book when it comes to writers' conferences. And so that's why I really felt like doing this newbie class. It started a few years ago. And just to kind of walk you through what to expect at a writers' conference and kind of walk through your feelings about being a writers' conference. Many of you were in our sessions yesterday, so you have a good feel of what it's like already, and that's a good thing. If not, then here you are. So my first question and first thing we're going to talk about is, how do you feel? Because a lot of times going to a writers' conference, especially for the first time, you have different feelings that are stirred up. You might be asking yourself, what am I doing here? The first time I ever went to a conference, I walked in, it was Kentucky Christian Writers Conference 15 years ago. And I looked around and I saw all these wonderfully talented people. And I wondered, wow, what am I doing here? And so you might
Carlton,
be, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There's a lot of feedback. I don't know if it's an issue with audio.
Okay.
Maybe turn the volume on your computer down about 20%.
Okay. Okay, how are we doing now?
Oh, that's
Yes.
much better.
Good, okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for that. Okay. So you might be thinking, what am I doing here? I remember the first time I ever went to Blue Ridge Mountains Christian Writers Conference, which is in North Carolina. Some of you have been there maybe. And it's huge. It's probably 4 times the size of Kentucky Christian Writers Conference at least. And I was standing in the registration line looking around, literally thinking, what am I doing here? And almost bolted for the door. I got so nervous. And if you know me, I'm a very outgoing person, but I was really feeling it that day. I'm really feeling intimidated. So you might be thinking about, what am I doing here? Secondly, you might be wondering, what can I expect? Now, maybe you were in the sessions yesterday and you kind of know what to expect, but walking in blind to your first writers conference, you probably don't know what to expect. And I know when I first started going to writers conferences, it ended up being something totally different than what I expected, and it ended up being something wonderful that obviously I've loved it, or I've continued for 15 years. And so, but you might be thinking about, what can I expect? And then a lot of times we ask the question, why me, Lord? That first year that I walked in, that was what I was thinking. Why me, Lord? You created Max Lucado and all these wonderful writers, and why me? But God constantly gave me confirmation during the conference that why not me? You know, why not me? That He had actually called me to write. So those are some of the feelings that might be going on in your mind. We're going to kind of address those as we go on. Now, I love this section of my presentation. What is the top reason that you are at a writers conference? And it's not what you are thinking, probably. What is the top reason that you're at a writers conference? And the answer is, you are at a writers conference for the people, the people that God is going to place in your path. That's the most important thing that you're going to have at a writers conference. If you look at this slide, these are just a few of the people that God has placed in my path at a writers conference. I'm going to show you some more here in just a minute. And but the relationships, I have gained wonderful relationships, wonderful friendships. Some of the closest relationships that I have are my writer friends. And what I always say is, it's awesome when you walk into an event, or in this case, get online an event, and there's so many like-minded people. There's so many people like you. Writers are a different breed. And when you're at a writers conference, you finally find people who are like you, people who listen to the voices in their head and then write it down and try to sell it and publish it. And so that's that's a great thing. So the people are the great thing. And I say relationships are the key. Look at this screen. There's Mr. Greg Bridgman, and we swapped hats for that photo. That's a cool photo. And Hallie, and you see me with Sherilyn Bispano, who's also teaching at Southeast. And then there's Bob Hostetler in a Shakespeare costume. Wow. And so these are experiences and people I've gotten to know and I treasure in my life because of a writers conference. Now, what about writers conferences? Pray for holy introductions and divine appointments. Pray for and expect holy introductions and divine appointments. God has ordained you to be at this conference, and He has ordained the people that you are supposed to connect with and you are supposed to get to know. And so that one of the first writers conferences I ever heard, I heard this line, that pray for holy introductions and divine appointments. So God's going to connect you with the right people at the right time for different reasons. If you look at the group picture at the top of the slide, that was the crew that started the website almostanauthor.com. And if you're not familiar with that, I can put that in the chat later. It's great instruction for writers, but it all started from Kyle Young, who was a friend of mine at a writers conference, and he got to know all these writers, and he said, why don't we start a website and help other writers? And so that was a holy introduction. That was a divine appointment. The bottom of the screen, you'll see me and Holland Webb, who ended up being the co-author of my first published book, which is right above me here. And so, and that we met and connected at a writers conference. And so God is going to place people in your life. He has you here for a reason, and He's going to place people in your life. Now, and it's all about connections and networking and relationships. And you never know who God's going to connect you with that's going to play an important role in your life. The picture that you see is a group of people that I met at Blue Ridge Mountains Christian Writers Conference. And we are sitting at the back row table at the banquet because we called ourselves the Back Row Misfits. And we hung out together and we had a really good time, and we liked to laugh and cut up. And all these people are now published or working in the industry, and we connect with each other and we help each other. And it all started in the Back Row Misfits Club at Blue Ridge. Now, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience with relationships at a writers conference. My first Kentucky Christian Writers Conference was 15 years ago. And there was an editor there from Thomas Nelson. And the Thomas Nelson editor and I really hit it off. We talked, we hung out in the break times, we ate lunch together. He connected with me and my family at the hotel. We just really connected. And the Thomas Nelson editor agreed to take my manuscript home. Wow, it was amazing. But then he went home, and about a month or two later, he lost his job. It was really bad. But that guy, Mark, became my lifelong friend, and it was life-changing for me. It's a relationship that I am thankful for. He and I have walked with each other through good times and bad times. And if you see that picture, it's been a year or two ago. He was on a business trip, and he drove about 2.5 hours out of his way to come and visit me. And if you notice the background, I live deep in the mountains of Southeast Kentucky, and it is not easy to come and see me from any direction. And so he's a lifelong friend. And I just, probably 2 or 3 days ago, we had a nice, good chat over social media. And I originally thought that I was connected with him because he was going to get my book published, but I was connected with him because he would become a lifelong friend. Now, year 2 at Kentucky Christian Writers, I met a lady named Sandra Aldridge, and it was a life-changing meeting. And Sandra was the keynote that year. And by the way, look up Sandra Aldridge. She does amazing work. But year 2, I was there. I was sitting in the first keynote. She gets up to give the speech, and the first line out of her mouth was, "I'm proud to be a Kentucky woman from Harlan County, Kentucky." And my mouth dropped open. I looked around, and I was the only person from Harlan County, Kentucky. Harlan County's in the far eastern part of the state. I was the only person from Eastern Kentucky in that room. And so after her keynote, I got up the courage, and I went up to talk to her and introduce myself. And she thought it was amazing that I was from her home county, and she was so excited. And then back then at Kentucky Christian Writers, one of the door prizes at the physical event was you got to, if your name was drawn, you got to eat lunch with the keynote. And guess whose name was drawn? Mine. And of course, there was a group of us at the table. And I always tell people, don't monopolize the conversation. But Sandra was so fascinated with me being from her home county that it was me and her talking for a long time. I apologize to the people who were at the table that day. But anyway, and then 2 weeks after the conference, I got an email from Sandra, and she said, "Some friends of mine from the Jerry Jenkins Writing Guild are putting together a book. Here are the specifications. You need to submit something. You have 2 weeks." And I was like, wow, what a great opportunity, but 2 weeks? But I ended up writing something. I ended up submitting it, and that was my first major publication. I'm in a book with Jerry B. Jenkins. Who would have ever thought that? And so, but that was Sandra. And beyond the connections in the publishing industry, Sandra's a wonderful friend. She actually returned to Kentucky Christian Writers about 2 or 3 years ago. That's me and her there, and she's somebody I know I can count on. So another person that I met. Now, at Blue Ridge Mountains Christian Writers Conference, I met a guy named Kyle Young. Kyle is this big hulk of a person. Kyle played football for the University of Michigan. Big old dude. And we met at the Blue Ridge Conference. We really didn't talk a lot during the conference, but we ended up connecting on social media and sending messages back and forth. And then the next year, we hung out at the conference, and I actually played Uno with his children during the break time. That's how much that we hung out. And then, so with Kyle Young, we became really good friends. But then after the conference one year, he said, "I'm thinking about starting a website, and I'd like you to join it," called almostanauthor.com. And that little website has turned out to be a top 100 site for writers. And then a year or two later, Kyle became an agent. And he said, "Carlton, I would like to be your agent. I would like to represent you." And that was just that was a God thing right there, because I had tried to get an agent for years, with no success. And here was somebody that was my buddy that I met at a writers conference, becoming an agent and wanting to represent me. And so it was a life-changing relationship. And Kyle and I are just, we're friends. And during this whole COVID thing, we have connected online. He pastors a church. I'm a children's pastor. We have done some things together during this time. It's been an amazing relationship. It all started at a writers conference. All of it started at a writers conference. I wanted to show this just for fun. I have some photobomb friends at Kentucky Christian Writers Conference. One conference I was walking by and they were taking a picture and I could not resist to photobomb them. And so we have made it a tradition that we take a picture and I do something crazy. They never know what I'm going to do, as you can see behind that. And these are just wonderful friends of mine. We love to talk. We love to cut up. We love to talk about writing, but we love to talk about other things as well. And that's Harriet and Shirley and Betty. And actually, Harriet and Shirley actually do devotional books, and I ended up being in one of their books because of my relationship with them. Now, I do want to get serious for a minute and talk about my friend Lisa. This is Lisa Greer, and she was a longtime board member and former coordinator of the conference. And Lisa unexpectedly passed away about 3 weeks ago. And as you can figure, we are just really devastated and we miss her. But this is a real blessing, my relationship and my friendship with Lisa Greer. This is a blessing that the Lord gave me to be in this woman's life, just a little part of her life, and to be her friend. And we all miss her, but we know that she's celebrating on the streets of heaven right now. But I wanted to pay tribute to her in this section. So, relationships are really important. Now, we are at a virtual conference, which is a little bit different, but what I noticed, I was talking to Greg right before we got started, it was amazing how people are connecting in the chat on Zoom, and they are exchanging email addresses, and they're putting their websites there. And I noticed on social media last night, people are connecting on Twitter and Facebook. And it's just an amazing thing to see. God's doing something here with the relationships. Even though we are separated by the miles, God's heart is still mending us together. And that's an amazing thing. So I encourage you to connect with people even after the conference and connect. I'm even going to put my email up at the end of this. And if you want to email me, feel free to. But relationships really are the key. Now, the next consideration at a writers conference, a Christian writers conference especially, is spiritual refreshing. This is Kentucky Christian Writers Conference, and that does make a difference. That does make a difference. So first of all, you want to make sure that God is part of the equation and he's part of the experience. He is the one who led you to come to attend this conference in this way. And he has something for you. And so make sure he's part of it. Make sure he's part of the equation and part of the experience. You want to pray for his will and his timing. What is his will at this conference and his perfect timing? I've gone to conferences before thinking this is it. This is the year that I'm going to get published and I'm going to break through. And an editor's going to love me or an agent's going to love me. And it didn't happen, but I came home with a wonderful friend, or I came home with a wonderful relationship, or I came home with some new knowledge that I needed to take my writing to the next level. And so you want to pray for his will and pray for his timing. You do want to take time for him. And you probably noticed, even though we're virtual and we're online, this is an intense schedule. It's an intense schedule. Here we are at 7:50 in the morning talking about this, and we go pretty much straight through today with a few little breaks. But sometimes you gotta just take time for him and say, Lord, help me today and guide me today. Along that same lines, you do want to pace yourself, and you take a break if you need it. And sometimes information overload can really get to you. There's a lot of information going out, and it's wonderful information, but sometimes you just need a little break for it. You guys have the advantage of having access to videos of all the sessions. And so that's an awesome thing. So if you need to take a break, you can do that. And I often tell the story. For years, Kentucky Christian Writers was held at Grace Heartland Church in Elizabethtown, a huge church with different buildings on their campus. And there was one year that I had been to so many classes and listened to so much, and it was wonderful information, but it really was overwhelming me. And I walked next door to the building next door and sat in the chapel for about 30 minutes just to spend a little time with God, to meditate on him, to gather my thoughts. And it was really good. And nobody got mad at me. Nobody sent me to the principal's office. I did not get in trouble for doing that. It was a little time that I needed. And so if you do have to pace yourself and take a break, feel free to do that. And then here, you want to take note of the emotional highs and emotional lows of a writer's conference. Sometimes a writer's conference can be like a roller coaster, and you've got these great emotional highs, and then you've got some lows. And so there have been times at writers' conferences where I've connected with someone, or a teacher or an editor said, wow, I love your work and I love your piece. And then there have been the opposites, where they didn't like it. Or I've been in classes before with some professional giving me great instruction, but I'm sitting there realizing, wow, I'm doing everything wrong. I've done everything wrong in my writing. And that's just part of the experience. And so you want to take note of the emotional highs and the emotional lows. Don't let it get you down. God has you here for a reason, and he's going to take care of that. So beware of that. So that is spiritual refreshing. So we know that you're here for your relationships with other people. We know that you're here for some spiritual relationships. What's next? You're writing, finally. You're writing, finally. You might think that's the number one thing, but I put it down a little bit. So it is important. Obviously, you're here because you're a writer and you want to write, and that's awesome. So what I say is learn all you can about your area, the area of writing that you specialize in or that you normally do, but look at other areas as well. Again, your unique opportunity this year is that you have access to all of the videos of the classes. And so learn about other things. I encourage you to take a class in a different writing type than you normally do. You never know what God is going to do with your writing. And so I encourage you to take a class in a different writing type than you normally do. Some stories about me. One year, I felt led to take a class in writing women's romance. Now, do I look like a women's romance writer? Not really, but I really felt God leading me to that class, and it was wonderful. I learned so much in that class that I have used. I was the only guy, but I got a lot of good feedback, and we did a lot of neat little writing exercises, and it was a great experience. But what if I had said, "Oh, I don't write that. I'm not taking that." So that's it. I noticed on the editors panel Thursday night, which unfortunately I didn't get to attend. I was doing my day job as a teacher. I had to teach an online class at that same time. But I noticed that Shanna Asario, I think is her last name, from Love Inspired, was part of that panel. And one year I took a class on writing for Love Inspired. And it was me and one other guy who was actually a former cop. So we made a motley pair breaking into the Love Inspired class. And but it was interesting. I learned a lot about the industry. I learned a lot about that style of writing and other things that I could use in my writing. So you never know when God has a blessing for you just by stepping outside your comfort zone and taking a class in a different style of writing than you normally do. And you have that great opportunity. This time you can go back and watch all of these videos and get all this instruction. It's awesome. Okay. Now, I don't really have time to go over all of these, but it's important that you learn about query letters, one sheets, and proposals and approaching editors and agents. That is usually what gets you in the door to be published. A query letter is just a letter that you write to a publisher or an editor, and you're introducing yourself and you're kind of promoting what you want to write. It might be a specific project or a specific article that you want to write, and so learn how to do that. One sheets and proposals are how you're going to promote. If you have a book idea, that's how you're going to promote that and try to get a publisher, editor, or an agent. On the KentuckyChristianWriters.com blog, we have a great post that was written by Sherry Lynn Bispano, who's actually teaching the other class right now, on how to do one sheets. And actually, when the conference is over, there's going to be some new information open up on our blog that you're going to be able to submit one sheets to some of the professionals here. And so look at that instruction. And then proposals. When you want to do a book, especially, you've got to know how to write a proposal. I will be 100% honest with you. I hate writing proposals. It's kind of a boring type of work, but it's how you get the book out there. It's how you get published. And so I encourage you to do that. Sherry Lynn Bispano, who is one of our faculty members, this is her thing right here. Query letters, one sheets, proposals. It's even her business. And so if you haven't attended one of her workshops, I suggest you go back and watch the videos. She's wonderful. Sherilyn is a little fireball, and she's very excited about helping other writers, and she does a wonderful job with this. And so do that. And then approaching editors and agents. Now, if we were at the physical conference, you would be doing that in person, but you're going to do that primarily through email if you choose to send a one sheet, or you're also going to have an opportunity to get a critique. There's going to be some options online for you to pick a person and submit a critique. You can submit up to 10 pages for $10, and that is like the cheapest you'll ever get a critique. And I can't answer all your questions about that. Maybe Greg can later, but do that. But the main thing about editors and agents is that they're people too. We want to be courteous to them. If you're doing an email, you want to be professional about it. You do want to mention that you're doing this through Kentucky Christian Writers Conference, and you just want to treat them with courtesy and respect. I know some editors and agents, and they have horror stories of people approaching them. One editor in particular, she said she was at a writers conference and she went to the restroom and somebody slipped her a proposal under the stall door, and it's not the right place, people. I've been at writers conferences where I've shared a lunch table with an editor or an agent, and people just really try to monopolize the conversation and take it over. And you want to, you just want to be courteous and remember they're people too. One thing that I didn't put on here is you want to master the art of what we call the elevator pitch. And by that, be able to explain what your book is about in 1 minute or so. Imagine you're riding an elevator with this editor or this agent, and you only have the time that you're going from one floor to another to talk about your book. And so be able to encapsulate the essence of your book in about a minute or two. Another story I love to tell, I was at a writers conference and I was at a lunch table with this guy that was pretty big in the publishing agency, and he was very courteous. He was looking at each of us and asking, "What do you write? What are you working on?" And this one lady, when he asked her that question, she went into, it was like she was practically reading her book. She went on for over 20 minutes. It's about this, and chapter 1 does this, and so on and so on. And finally, he very nicely stopped her and said, "You really need to master the elevator pitch. Why don't you come and see me later?" And so that was neat. But if you can describe your work or your book in 1 minute, that's the elevator pitch. That's a great way to approach an editor or an agent. Even when you're emailing, you don't want your email to be 500 words. You want to be able to encapsulate what you're doing briefly. Okay. And I'll say this again, don't get ahead of God, seek his wisdom and his timing. It's okay to pray, "God, who do you want me to meet? God, who do you want me to submit too, and that's an important thing. So that's another part of making him part of the equation. But if you're a Christian writer, he's in your writing and he's inspiring your writing, and so you don't want to get ahead of him. And I will tell you, I have gotten ahead of God so many times in my writing journey. I have submitted work to agents and editors that just wasn't ready, but I was so zealous to get it out there that I really got ahead of God. And so his wisdom and his timing is the best. And so make sure that you're seeking that. Now, you do want to beware of what we call the after conference crash. Now, obviously, I'm seeing a nap in my future. That's going to be my crash. But what I mean by the after conference crash is a lot of times after a writer's conference, you ride this big wave and you're really excited about writing. And then you have to go back to your real life. There's laundry waiting on you. There's dishes in the sink. There's appointments to get to, and you just kind of crash. Sometimes people crash and burn when it comes to that. Plus, there is an enemy out there who doesn't want you to write for the Lord, and so there are things that happen that with that after conference crash. So you need to be aware of that. Be prepared for it. Pray your way through it. Be determined to be disciplined and continue the work that the Lord has for you. One year, I went to a conference and I had 2 or 3 editors and publishers tell me to send me your work and email it to me. Send me a sample. And I did as soon as I got home from the conference, and everything was a rejection. Everything was rejection. One rejection came in less than 24 hours, which I think is a record. And I was so disheartened that I didn't write for a long time. I literally put writing on the shelf and said, why am I doing this? And that was the wrong choice, really. That was the wrong choice. I needed to just press through that. And so just be aware of it, be prepared for it, work your way through it. Don't let it get you down. Keep going. And I like to share this slide with you because you do belong here. You do belong not only at Kentucky Christian Writers Conference, but you belong as part of the Christian writing community. You belong here. And a lot of people need to hear that. And Christian writers are really a community. And the people at a Christian Writers Conference, they really want to help you. They really want to see you be the best that you can be for God. There's not a spirit of competition here. It's a spirit of we want to help you, and we want to help you be the best that you can be, and we want to help you on this vision that God has given you. And so you do belong here, and you'll find that in the Christian writers community. It's an amazing thing what God does when a bunch of Christian writers get together. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And you do belong here. Now, we'll open the floor for questions. I'm going to, for just a minute, I'm going to leave this slide up. That is my email address. It is carltonwhughes@gmail.com. And if you want to email me sometime, feel free to do that and connect. I am also on Twitter. My handle is Carlton W. Hughes. And then I am on Facebook. I'm Carlton Hughes there. I told people I need to work on my brand consistency, but if you would like to find me and connect in that way, I'd be happy to do that. Now I'm going to stop sharing.
I'm gonna mute everybody and unmute everybody.
Okay.
Well, I don't really know what just happened. Okay, I'm gonna have to unmute everybody manually.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on this morning.
It's
Participants, you are free to unmute yourselves as well. Technology is kicking my butt today.
Yes. Okay. So, so do we have a question? Any questions, comments?
Okay. Carlton, I would like to say there was some discussion about pitches.
Yes.
when you brought up pitches. So I put an example of what I think is a good pitch in the chat. The key to a good pitch is just short but specific. So
Right.
you don't want to say like girl meets boy, can they find love? That's way too vague
Exactly.
in general. And so something like a good pitch that as an example is young single mom Jane meets Bill, who lost his family in a fire. Bill struggles with survival guilt while Jane has trust issues. And so you've just kind of given an outline of the plot and the conflict
Right.
in those few sentences. And that's the key to what's your hook? What is different about your book? What would make it interesting in your genre?
That's good. Yeah. What, get to the point is basically what it
Mm-hmm.
is. Like, for example, here's mine. What if your former college drinking buddy and enemy became the pastor of your church later in life?
Oh, wow.
That's my pitch.
Or the soldier you served with who stole from you is now a pastor. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Not that
So,
ever happened to me.
yeah. Yeah. So short and short and to the point is really good style pitching. Somebody says, where is the best place to find an editor? I would probably say at a writers conference. The editors and people that I know, I have connected with at a writers conference. And so when later this evening, when the new part of the website opens up where you can submit a one sheet or a critique, you'll have a list of editors and publishers that you can have access to if you want to send them something. And or looking over just the faculty list or the editor panel from the other day. But I've found that writers conferences are the best places to find editors and connect with them. Greg, what do you say?
Well, there are organizations like PIN, but there's different kinds of editors. It kind of depends on the editor you're looking for. You're looking for a line editor, content editor, and so forth. I think the way that most people find and connect with an editor is through the phone a friend method. They'll get on the ACFW loop and ask, does anyone have a good editor you can recommend? Or talking to other writers among ACFW or your local writing group or critique group. Someone may help you out. The key to having a good editor is have your work edited by somebody who doesn't love you.
Your parents really love your work. They really do.
Right. This is great. Don't change a thing, honey.
Okay, we have a question of how essential is it to have an agent? What I've learned, it's kind of the chicken or the egg. There are a lot of people who say you can't get published unless you have an agent, but there are people who do. I was published in a lot of compilations and different things before I had an agent. I would say the purpose of an agent is, especially if you're really wanting to publish books and you really want to get it out there, the agent is like the middleman, takes care of all the contract stuff and the communication with the publishing company. And so if you're really serious about publishing a book and getting that out there, then I would say go for an agent. But I think you can be published without an agent. I know people who have. I'll take Sandra Aldridge, for example. When she does her presentation, she said that her first few books were without an agent, but she finally did get an agent because it made it easier to work with the publishing company. So, and when to pursue getting an agent, you can really pursue that anytime. But I would say if you definitely have been working at writing and you feel like you have a solid book idea and you've done the homework and you know how to do a proposal and how to do a one sheet, I would say that's the time to pursue an agent.
So Carlton, we have some comments and some questions in the chat as I'm scrolling.
Okay.
Johnny is reminded of the verse from Habakkuk, which is our theme this year, of course, Write the Vision. Mm-hmm. Habakkuk 2, 2 and 3. Let's see. I think it's important that you should know that Leah thinks you look like you could be a romance author.
I need a good pen name, though. That's what I need.
I think
Susan Jones.
Paige Turner. No. Paige Turner. That's the one.
Yes, Paige Turner.
Yes, that's better. That's
Goddess
good.
Ripper by Paige Turner.
Yes.
There's some discussion about college classes versus writing classes at a writing conference.
Mhm.
I'm sure you were probably recommending taking some classes today, which we have a pretty full lineup again today.
Right.
Do you want to talk about college level classes as well?
Yeah, college level classes are fine. I know from my experience that first of all, what I always say, and I said this in my devotional writing class, is if you're going to be a good writer, you got to know the mechanics, and you have to know the punctuation, and you have to know the grammar, and you have to know how to put together a sentence and then a paragraph and an essay and so on. And so I think, first of all, basic writing courses, for example, at my college, we offer a lot of basic courses like that. But then there are courses, probably more so at a bigger college or university. I'm at a community college where you can learn the creative side of writing. I have a friend that I work with who teaches some creative writing classes. She also teaches some poetry classes and so on. So I think both are good. I think coming to a writers conference and taking the instruction there, it's very intense and it's not a long time. But then if you want to savor a little bit and take a little bit longer time to work on your craft and everything, a college class might be a good thing.
So some other discussion. I want to give some advice about pitches as well. Just as with your writing, you want to avoid forms of the to be verb. So you don't want to say, Jane is a recent widow or Jane is a young mother in your pitch. You would rather say, single mother Jane and then an active verb. So try to avoid those to be verbs. It's difficult to do because we speak in passive verbs, but turn your head around on that and try to make active sentences even within your elevator pitch. Rhonda Dragomer, word weavers, serious writers, so chops for recommending those. Okay, let's open the floor. Everyone should be off of mute or
Yeah,
have
that's
the
right.
ability to.
I do
Go
see
ahead.
one
Yeah,
about
Carl.
beta readers at a conference, and I will say that I have actually found critique group partners at writers conferences. And so, yeah, I think writers conference is a good place to find beta readers. Questions?
Oops. I'm trying to find my thing. Hello?
Yes.
Yes, speak up.
Yes, I really need a writing coach. Where would I? Is that such a thing? I'm really thinking of more like a editor / coach,
Right.
like not just someone that's going to critique and basically criticize what I'm doing, but to actually give me pointers and so that I can make it better and like point out like I'm wondering, is my arc correct? Is my character development arc, is it going in the right direction? Is it are you able to follow it?
Right.
And actually my story right now, I'm wondering if I shouldn't divide it into 2 books. Do I actually have 2 stories going? Do I need to split this? So I need that kind of direction. Would an editor give me that, or do I need a coach? And if I do need a coach, where would I find one?
I'll talk and then I'll let Greg talk. Because I know Greg probably has some
Yeah.
writers conferences are a good place to find those people. One person I would suggest is My Book Therapy with Susan May Warren. She was our keynote last year. She's an amazing author, but she also runs this thing called My Book Therapy, and that's what she does. She and other people who work with her walk alongside writers and provide instruction and will kind of coach you through the process. So that's the one that I see somebody else say Novel Academy on the chat, but I really think Susan May Warren is a really good resource. And there are other people out there. It might just be a way of searching, or even through a writers conference, through a writers conference and looking at people. For example, I'm hosting Corinthia Phillips's session later on this morning, and I know part of her bio is that she does some coaching. Now, I don't know if it's for novels or anything, but that's part of her bio, so maybe worth checking into. Greg.
Thank you.
Greg, you're on mute.
That's my preferred state of being. I was going to say Hannah Conway and Hallie Bridgman and several other faculty and staff here are involved with my book therapy. Yeah, Novel Academy. I think it's what it is now.
Yeah, they put the link in the
Yeah, I think it
the comments.
merged.
Thank you, Johnny.
Yeah, it used to be My Book Therapy, and actually there was one called Novel Rocket as well. I think they've
Right.
all merged into one, but it's really a good resource. If you need to have someone like you can look in the eyeballs and have coach your book, you need to find a writing partner. And the way to do that is by going to your local Christian writers group or critique group and developing that relationship there. A writing coach can potentially be someone you love. Just, you need to agree to be accountable to each other and have that honesty there when things aren't exactly right.
Right.
It's,
Yeah, and I was once part of an online critique group that I connected with the leader at a writers conference. She was running an online critique group and said, "Do you want to join?" And I said, "Yeah." So, that might be an option as well. Okay. Is there a registry of local Christian writers groups?
there are, and actually I recently posted on the blog of KCWC a list of all the Christian writers conferences through the end of the year and what their status is, whether they were canceled or whether they went virtual or whatever, or rescheduled. So check out that blog post. Depending on if you're ACW, ACFW, they do list the chapters and usually contact information, and just look on their websites.
Yes, ACW is American Christian Writers, and then ACFW is American Christian Fiction Writers. And so you can look on their websites and get, like he said, and do that. The blog that he's referring to is, you go to just our conference website, kychristianwriters.com, and there's an option for blog, and it would be on there.
Yeah, just look for my name, but you have to spell it right.
Yes.
2 G's.
Anybody else have a question?
All right. Well, guys, we have announcements coming up at 8:30, which is less than 15 minutes away.
Yes.
And let's see what else we got lined up today. We have Turn Your Writing into a Business, JP Robinson, who taught the Write Like a Man class yesterday. Amazing class. We have Do It Yourself Audio with Gene Rowley, who is a nationally recognized award-winning voice talent. And it's just worth popping in just to hear him speak. Yes. If you've never, you probably have heard his voice, you just didn't realize it. If you listen to radio programs or watch television, you probably heard his voice.
He would make Darth Vader jealous. His voice is so deep.
Got a great voice. Also, Maximizing Your Writing Voice with Lisa Carter, who taught the editing class yesterday. Another amazing class if you want to catch that on video. Corinthia Phillips, Writers Are Warriors. Kinsey Nevins, The Ancient Art of Storytelling. Gene Rowley is doing a Q&A about audiobooks. Chip McGregor with McGregor Ledecky is doing Ask the Agent for an hour. So if you want to pick an agent's brain, that is definitely an opportunity. Yeah. Social Media and Its Uses for Authors, again by Kinsey. The amazing Tony Shiloh, Building Your Tribe on Social Media. Hallie Bridgman, Video Marketing for Authors, if you're ready for video marketing as an author. Chip McGregor is doing the publishing contract, where he's going to break down contracts, which is something people don't really do or understand. That may be something you want to do if you're looking at signing with someone, to make sure you don't give too much away. And then our final keynote. So guys, it's going to be an amazing day. Really pray for all of you that you get a blessing out of it. Carlton, thank you so much for the amazing class.
Thank you. And I want to say I've changed my virtual background because you're all part of the writing family now. And so we really feel that
I do know.
are that way. And I'll just throw a shameless plug. My latest book is Adventures in Fatherhood. Great Father's Day gift. Pick it up.
Good time.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for being with us. so early, and I had a great time. You guys made it great.
Thank you all very much.
Bye.
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 Hey, Greg.
Yes.
I'm having trouble finding the blog that you referred to.
Okay, 1 second. I'll find it.
I'm on the blog site.
Okay.
Do you remember which month it was posted?
It was like, I don't know. I've been pretty busy. Hang on, blog. Okay. Yeah, 2020 writer is the second one in the list, actually.
Okay,
I'll
let me
put it in
check.
the chat. Here you go.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
All right, guys, I'm going to end the meeting so we can get to our 8:30. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.